Empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. Shatter the stereotypes. Power Black men. Power Black men. Shatter the stereotypes. Power Black men to live extraordinary lives. Shatter the stereotypes. Shatter the stereotypes. Power Black men to live extraordinary lives.
Welcome to Shatter the Stereotypes, where the intention is to empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. This show is based on the simple idea that every Black man is capable of creating inner peace, dynamic health, great relationships, and financial abundance. Therefore, we provide insights and strategies to educate, motivate, and inspire Black men to reach their full potential and create the life of their dreams. So if you're ready for some high-octane motivation and inspiration that supports and empowers you to live the life you were born to live, get ready to shatter the stereotypes so you can build a life that lights you up and positively impacts the world. So now, let's shatter the stereotypes with your host, Coach Michael Taylor.
Hello and welcome to Shatter the Stereotypes, where my intention is to empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. You see, there's never been a shortage of Black male role models. There's only been a lack of exposure of those role models in mainstream media. So my intention is to showcase and highlight Black men who are doing remarkable things in the world. And as a man who happens to be Black, I'm extremely optimistic about the future for Black men. I do not accept the negative stereotype that Black men are somehow endangered. I believe the future is filled with infinite possibilities for Black men, and I'm committed to empowering them to embrace these possibilities. You see, contrary to what you may see in the media, I believe that we are entering into the most exciting, eventful, and opportunistic times in the history of our world. I believe the windows of opportunity are wide open for us to capitalize on the wealth of knowledge and information that is now available to everyone. The question I pose is, will you stand on the outside looking in, or will you jump through that window with excitement, courage, and enthusiasm? If you're watching this video, it means you've already jumped. So congratulations, you're well on your way to true success. And on this episode, I'm going to be talking about one of the fastest growing and profitable industries in the world. It is the industry of professional speaking and coaching. Speaking and coaching is a multi-billion-dollar industry that practically anyone can join. It has a very low financial barrier to entry, and there are an infinite amount of resources to help you get started. And joining me tonight is Ant Blair, who is affectionately known as Ant. And I love that word, actually, Ant. He's an entrepreneur, a keynote speaker, a 6-time public speaking champ, a workshop facilitator, and an advanced communications coach. And I ran across his profile on LinkedIn. I slipped him a DM, invited him to come on the podcast, and he graciously accepted. And here he is on the Shatter the Stereotypes podcast. So without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Ant to the show. Ant, how are you, my man?
I am doing great. Happy hump day, Michael. Happy to be here.
All right. So before we jump into your work, let's start off with a few icebreaker questions. So first of all, tell us where you're from.
Flint, Michigan.
Flint, Michigan. And
oh, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your family, whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
My family, migrated up to Michigan, the great migration from Virginia. All of the manufacturing jobs from the big three, Ford, General Motors, Chrysler, landed in Michigan. Mom and dad, they're old schoolers. Mom worked at Social Security, worked for the government. Dad worked for Buick, worked in Plant 36. They did 30 and out back then, before all the strikes and everything changed over. And, and have a 27-year-old son. He lived in Detroit. He's in Atlanta now. Very passionate about Flint. Very passionate about, the people and their struggle there. Flint has they've had hard time after hard time after hard time. And so when I think about family, my family is still there. And then my extended family is the Flint community.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Now, name a woman who's inspired you to be who you are.
Ooh, my grandmother.
Ooh, okay. Put her name out there. What's her name?
Ruth Rosalie Morgan.
All right. All right.
Yeah, grandma, she gave me a story that turned into a mantra, which was live a full life with no regrets.
Mm.
And she came up, I mean, during the era of, she told me stories when they didn't have automobiles.
Wow.
They had horses and carriages. The first vehicle that she remembers her father buying was with no key, with no button. She shared stories with me, Michael, of a time that I had no context, no idea of. And we hear a lot about, oh, the Jim Crow and, all of that. And obviously those were things. My grandmother shared stories that didn't have that thread included. She talked about how people were so very close knit, looked out for one another. Times were simple. You get a Christmas gift and it'd be 3 apples, 3 oranges, and a sock doll. And people were happy about that. Simpler times, Michael.
Yeah. I got you, man. I remember those days, actually. Now,
shut up, man. You don't even have no gray in your beard.
It's called Just for Men. Now, name a man that you look up to and admire.
My dad.
Okay. What's his
My
name?
dad. My dad, he tells me stories about the Blairs in Flint. They would say in the old school world that they grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. And, my dad could have been anybody other than what he was. He could have been a drunk, could have been on drugs. He tells me stories of friends that he grew up with, OD'd, went to Vietnam, didn't make it back, came back, head wasn't right. He tells me stories that are painful. And he could have made some of those same choices, but he made different choices. And he made the choices that allowed me to see a better day, to experience a better life. And he could have very easily been like his friends, his brothers, other people who generationally before, didn't have a good life.
Yeah.
For lack of a better phrase, or lack of better words. So my dad, he made choices, not all perfect, but he made the choices that led to a better life for him, for my family, for me, for my son, and the generations after.
Nice. Now, imagine that you were going to be trapped on an island for 30 days and you could only take one book with you. What book would you take?
Trapped on an island for 30 days and only had, that's a great question. That's a great question. Is this presuming that I'm eventually escape from that island one day?
Absolutely.
Or am
Absolutely. You're only going to be there for 30 days.
Okay, I'm only going to be there for 30 days. Black Fortunes.
Okay.
I don't know if you're hip to that book.
No, I have not heard of that one.
Black Fortunes is a book that tells the story, I want to say, of the first 5 African Americans who became millionaires right after Reconstruction.
Okay.
Yeah, and that inspired me, Michael, because, a lot of people will be like, oh, the system and this and that. And I read this book, and I'm looking at this and I'm saying, these are people who literally walked out of slavery and became millionaires. What's my excuse?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I'm glad we've got this on video because I want to definitely check that one out. Add that one to the list. Now, you like movies?
Michael, I don't own a TV. I don't go to the movies. Don't have Netflix. Don't have Disney Plus. Don't have Hulu. None of that stuff.
All right. So if I checked your music playlist, who are some of the artists I'd find on your music playlist?
Oh wow, man. You will see a lot of the OGs, like we're talking disco era and funk era. What come to mind would be like Gap Band,
Oh,
uh Roger,
there we go. There we go.
yeah, man. Yeah, we're going old school. Johnson Brothers, Johnny Guitar Watson, uh
Cameo.
Roy Ayers, Cameo, yeah, Morris Day and the Time. Yeah, I don't listen to a lot of modern day music, Michael, and some people will hate on me for it, but modern day music, to me, it all sounds the same. It's all pop.
Yeah.
It's like rap pop, rock pop, pop, country pop. You know what I'm saying? Back when I was coming up, Michael, the music scene was so diverse. I mean, it was just new flavors and new styles coming out all the time. And now it's like, man, everything to me, and this isn't everyone's experience. To me, it all sounds more or less the same because I came up in a rich era of music when we're talking about the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Well, as a former DJ who absolutely
Ooh,
loves music, I live in the 70s and 80s music genre. That's
my
you
man.
you pull up my Pandora, you'll see the different playlists that Pandora plays. You'll see Cameo, you'll see Roger, you'll see
Yup.
Carmen, you'll see Johnny Guitar Watson, that good music back in the day. Now,
Yeah.
I wrote a book titled The Cure for Onlyness, a Black Man's Guide to Joy, Passion, and Purpose. And the intention of the book was to address the feelings that we as Black men sometimes experience when we're the only person of color in certain environments.
Mm.
And I'm certain you've had that experience. So I'm curious, how do you navigate that?
I navigated by just being me, Michael.
There you go.
100%. When I started, you alluded a little bit to my first business back in 97, 98, 99, being melanated and being in tech, man, you was 1 out of 100 people in a room back then. And I mean, it's better now, but not much. But even back then, it was like, wow, that was when I was first starting to get into the business world and seeing how different people in different business industries moved and how they shook and how they did things. And I was like, man, I don't see a lot of people around here like me. I didn't have no other thing to do than to be me. I ain't necessarily, I'm not trying to be somebody that I'm not. I'm not trying to quote unquote fit in or anything like that. I uh the word I want to say radiated or magnified. I radiated my personality. I projected. That's the word I'm looking for. I projected my personality onto that landscape. You know what I'm saying? So by me doing that, I was able to blaze my own trail, create my own path, make my own lane, and stand out in those places for other reasons than the obvious reasons.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I love that answer because, again, it's a challenge sometimes if we don't know who we are.
100%.
When we know who we are, we can show up and show up as who we are. And
that's right.
I've dealt with this all of my life, being the only Black person or the first Black this, the first Black that. I've done that most of my life. And I love asking that question because you get varied responses, but it all boils down to what you just said. The way to handle that is to be you,
That's right.
to be authentically you. So
That's
no
right.
matter what environment you are, when you show up, as you say, you project who you are. And so that comes from self-awareness. And that was the whole intention of the book. In the book, I say the key to onlyness, the key to overcoming onlyness is self-awareness. Investing in your own potential so that you know who you are and you can show up in a way that people go, ooh, I want some of that, whatever it is he got, but he's got it, whatever it
That's
is.
right.
So
That's right.
That's what it's all about. Now, there are some people who are pretty pessimistic about the future, while there's others who, like myself, actually are pretty optimistic. So where do you fall on the spectrum between optimism and pessimism for the future in general? Where do you fall?
Optimistic 100%, man.
Okay.
Every like the old schoolers, I don't know about your faith background, but I remember as a youngster going to the church house, and I would hear the old schoolers say, hey, tomorrow ain't promised. So every day I'm awake and I'm alive is a good day. And it was that simple. It wasn't, oh, I ain't got this amount of money in the bank account, or, I don't have this, or I don't have that, or so-and-so did this, so-and-so did that. I am alive to see another day. And that's all I need to be optimistic and make my moves in life. And to me, it's that simple. And that is enough for me to be enthusiastically optimistic.
Yeah. Yeah. My tagline on my website says, I am an irrepressible optimist with a passion for the impossible.
I like that.
That's, again, every day I wake up is a good day.
Absolutely.
Every day I wake up, I already have something to be thankful for.
Absolutely.
I embrace an attitude of gratitude in everything that I do.
Absolutely.
So now I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience professionally. So here's your elevator pitch to the audience to share with who you are, what you do.
Who I am is a person who is about the human condition. I bring people together. I unify people. I see a lot of division in the world. And I believe that I was put here in this place to bring people together. So when I move and I shake and I do what I do in the world, I show up in a way to bring people together. So when you say, what do? I bring people together. How do I do that? I do that through, as you alluded to a little bit earlier, public speaking. I do some coaching. I have a media company. I mentor entrepreneurs. I mentor speakers. I mentor young people. Anything that I can do to help someone become their best self or give them a nugget that they can use to become their best self. And what I've discovered in my own life is if I'm working on myself, by default, I'm going to be a unifier of people. I'm going to attract people to me because there's so much perceived negativity that detracts and detaches and separates people. But if I'm being the best person that I can be, if I can help people become the best people that they can become, that energy, that light, that magnetism is going to bring people together. So for me, every day, for as long as I'm alive, I'm here to bring people together, to unite people. And I could go on and on and on about the why and the this and the that and the other thing, but it's to bring people together, man. What I do is I unify people. I bring people together so that people can be empowered to be the best people that they can become, that they can be, and cohesively, connectedly, interconnectedly be the best collective that we can be.
Gotcha. So today we're talking about the industry of speaking and coaching. And in that industry, it is an entrepreneurial pursuit. So if you're thinking about becoming a speaker, it's a business. So you got to think about it as a business.
100%.
Before we jump into speaking and coaching, I watched your TED Talk and you talked
appreciate that.
You talked about your entrepreneurial venture while living in Flint, Michigan, before you're on the current track that you're on. Can you share a little bit about that story of your first entrepreneurial venture?
Oh yeah, man. Flint, Michigan. If people don't know, I'm sure, and there are similar stories in different places in the United States. You know, around that time, we're talking 1990 through about 1995, probably more like 1989 to about 1995. There was a big wave of drugs that came in. You know, it was crack, you know, of course, cocaine had always been around, but then, you know, crack hit the scene, you know, and then you see movies like New Jack City and Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society and all that glamorized all of that. That was real life for a lot of people that I knew. Not for me, man. To be honest, Michael, I tried selling crack. I wasn't no good at it. I flat out wasn't no good at it, man. I'll keep it 100. You know, I tried selling, wasn't no good at it. You know, it takes a different mindset to be able to operate in that lane, and I just didn't have it. But I was able to get into the cannabis lane. Now in Michigan, it's legalized and everything, but back then it wasn't. But being in that lane, you know, it was a lot easier for me to connect. Once again, unifying people around a common thing. It was easy for me to make that into a profitable venture. And I made that into a very profitable venture, you know, and I don't trade anything for the experience, because if I didn't have that experience, I would not have been able to parlay it into the business environment that I live in today.
Now, there was a person that introduced you to advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about that introduction to advertising.
Man. Because I knew that I couldn't play that game at that time in the way that I was playing it, went back to college, you know, get some education. Went to college, you know, was a good writer. I had a little, Michael, alongside of that, which is a very common story. You know, I had a little production studio, you know, I had a little crew of rappers and whatnot. And I was doing that on the side. So I had some writing acumen, some writing ability. So going to school, you know, do some creative writing. They're like, oh my God, you're great at writing, blah, blah, blah. You know, like, oh, that's great. But, you know, creative writers, you know, how many of them do you know that actually make a living off of that? How many do you know that actually make money off of that? Not many. My creative writing teacher, Martha Hamp, I'll never forget that woman. She changed my life. She pulled me to the side. Just like I said in my TEDx talk, she pulled me to the side one day, and she always encouraged me and said, wow, you're a great writer. And she said, have you ever thought about advertising as a career path? And I said, I don't even know what advertising is. I don't even know what you're talking about. You know, and I'm 24 years old, Mike. I'm like, man, I don't even know what advertising is. I see them all the time on TV, just didn't know what they were. And she turned me on the game, and I was like, oh, wow. And Michael, I'll tell you what, I was in computer science at the time, but it was a lot of math, and I'm really not good at math. You know, that's not my strong suit. I can add, I can subtract, I can multiply, I can divide, but once you get past that, it's a struggle. But words, I'm really good with words. And she put that bug in my ear. And I was struggling with the computer science. And I said, man, let me see if I can't, you know, so let's see what's up with this. Got into the marketing program, and that came very easy. Mm-hmm. Way easier than what I was doing with computer science. And I said, man, I like this. You know, this is words and ideas and psychology and, you know, how do people respond to stuff and how do people think? I was like, man, I can really dig this, because to be honest, back when I was in the cannabis game, all those same ideas, you know, how to sell, human psychology, all of that stuff played into it. And I was like, wow, I already know a lot of this stuff, but didn't know that I knew what I know. So Martha turned me on the game. I got into marketing. I really got into the advertising side of marketing. And man, the rest is history.
Mm. Love that story. So, with all that knowledge and wisdom, you launched a company called WW Web Spinners Corp, I believe. Tell us about that.
Yeah, web spinners. Oh, Michael, got in a little bit too early. Got in a little bit too early because I got into that game at 1997. And it was still people like, World Wide Web, internet, what you talking about? Get out of here, kid. Get out of here with this witchcraft. Get out of here. And I was trying to sell people on this idea of, man, the internet is the future, man. You don't even know. So side note, related, Michael, the summer before, which got me on that path was, I don't know how old you are, but I'm presuming that you know about video cassette tapes.
Absolutely.
So, man, one of my homeboys had a little family-owned Blockbuster, so to speak, and he bought some video cassette tapes and filled up his inventory. And so his plan was he's gonna fill up his inventory, and then what he had left over, he was gonna sell and recoup his money. Couldn't sell the video cassette tape, so he couldn't recoup his money. So he was all like, about that. And I told him, I said, hey, man, have you ever thought about selling them on the internet? And he's like, So I'm like, check it out. I said, how much you need to get off of these videotapes? He said, man, if I can get $5 off of these videotapes, then I'm good. I said, all right, then. So anything that I sell above the $5, I get to keep, and we cool. He's like, yeah. I was like, bet. So, man, again, to the advertising thing. So I made a classified ad. This is before Google, Facebook, eBay, Amazon, all that. This is for all of that, Michael. So I put out a classified ad. People start hitting me up like 4 hours after I put the ad out. I'm like, oh, wow. So I had a merchant account from a family business that me and my dad started. So I sent them a list. They was like, hey, I want these movies. I don't know these people, Michael. I mean, I don't know these people. I ain't never seen their face, nothing. They like, I want 5 movies, five of these movies. They send me their credit card, no SSL, no shopping cart, a Hotmail account. Michael, I had a Hotmail account. They sending me their credit card information, don't know who I am. I could be anybody. And I was, to be honest. Ran the credit card go through. Ding. I said, how about that? So I boxed up the movies, sent them on the way. Man, that was my business for a whole summer. Michael made $5,000-ish that summer just doing that, right? So I tell that story to say I knew the potential of the internet from that experience. So I'm trying to sell people on this idea like, hey, I experienced this myself. I know this is a thing. You need to get on this. And they're like, get out of here. Well, it turns out about 1999, 2000, people started getting hip to game. And it just so turned out, just like I said in my TEDx talk, I'm in college at this point, and president of college is like, yo, my parish, we trying to do a website. Can you do it? I said, yeah. I knocked it out. People who went to the parish who was business owners was like, hey, who did your website? Oh, Ant Blair did. Can you turn me on? Yeah, I can. And then the next thing I know, Michael, man, I had a business, man, scaled it to 2 office locations, 12 employees, and 133 clients in less than 18 months. I'd say about 16 months. Ridiculous, man. It happened like that.
And that was Web Spinners?
That was Web Spinners.
Nice.
First black-owned digital marketing agency in Michigan.
That's awesome. All right, so let's jump into what we're here to talk about today, professional speaking. So first question, how did you get involved?
Toastmasters was the catalyst. Toastmaster was a catalyst. Wanted to, I mean, I'm not bad at public speaking. At the time, I wasn't bad at it. My speaking skills was better than average. I believe that I could be better. I looked into Dale Carnegie. Dale Carnegie was a, 4-session, $1,700 type of deal. I was like, man, for 4 sessions, $1,700. Found Toastmasters. I was like, oh, I can go for as long as I want to. And it's, $40, maybe $100 a year. I was like, let me check this out. Hopped into Toastmasters. The people were like, wow, you're a good speaker. They say, hey, have you ever thought about competing? And I was like, competing? See, in my high school, we didn't have debate classes or anything like that. So, back in Flint, we just didn't have stuff like that. And so I get turned on to that idea of speaking competitively. And I was like, really? You can do that? Kind of like with advertising. I'm like, really? You can do that? I didn't know. And, I think that's a thing with our people, Michael, is there's a lot of stuff we just don't know.
Yeah.
That we can do. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know. I didn't know that I could do that. So people turned me on the game. I started competing. I started winning. And then the next thing I know, I'm like, wow, if I'm winning trophies, certainly I can get paid. And so the next thing, I started doing little gigs here and there, of course, did Rotary and, did, Kiwanis and, did the chamber business things, did all that stuff for free. But once I got enough of that experience under my belt, then I started to pursue, okay, now I believe that I can get paid to do this. So I started seeking out paid speaking opportunities, which then led me to the TEDx stage. And then after I hit the TEDx stage, I discovered, and a lot of people don't know this either, once you hit the TEDx stage, you $5,000 a gig right out the gate. So when that happened, and I was like, oh, snap. Now I can just roll up on somebody and say, oh, if you're trying to get me into your spot, five G's, man. And so then when that happened, and plus people started watching the TEDx, so I'm over 100,000 views on my TEDx. People started reaching out from other places like, hey, how about you join our speakers bureau? We'd love to, represent you as a speaker. So then that happened. I started doing my own speaking gigs. So basically creating my own stages. So I created a stage around a niche. I charged tickets, and I made my own speaking gigs where I made my own money. So I went from TEDx to speaking to corporations, to doing my own stages, which is a lot easier in my opinion, to then being represented by a speaker agency. And then now, just the other day, Michael, a corporation, a training company reached out and was like, hey, we'd like for you to be a trainer in our curriculum. And this program is connected to Russell Wilson. And I'm like, man. So, it's communication is so important, man. It's so key. And if people would realize that the better we're able to communicate, that skill carries over into every single part of our life, man. Our family relationships, our friends relationships, our work relationships, our community relationships, man. It's a skill that that unlocks unlimited opportunities.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I want to back up a little bit. So for those of you who are watching and you're thinking about becoming a speaker, Ant kind of touched on it, but I'm a firm believer that the best place to start is with Toastmasters.
100%.
If you're not familiar with Toastmasters, it's a worldwide organization that basically teaches public speaking. And the way that it works basically is when you go in, you do what they call the 10 speeches to get what's called your CTM, certified to become a certified Toastmaster. And
they don't do it that way anymore though, Mike.
They changed
really? All that. Yeah, they changed all that. It used to be like that. They changed it all up, man. They
really?
got pathways. Yeah, different.
So within the Toastmasters organization, though, what happens is when you go to the meetings, you have an opportunity to learn every aspect of public speaking.
Yep.
You get challenged to evaluate other speakers, which means you got to learn how to pay attention. you have to do where, I don't know if they still do this when you say, they ring a little bell. Do they still do that?
Different clubs have different ways of going about it, but they do the filler words. Absolutely. They definitely count filler words.
Yeah. So when you're giving a speech and you go, they ring a bell. And the intention is to make you aware of when you're doing that. Okay.
Yes, sir. So
my point is that Toastmasters is the very best place to start.
No question.
You're thinking about becoming a speaker. Okay.
No question.
So once you go to Toastmasters, you get the basics. Then, just like Ant said, you're going to start off doing non-paid speaking engagements. You're going to find any opportunity to speak. When I first started, I started speaking at elementary schools. I started speaking at middle schools. I started speaking at high schools. I just wanted to speak.
That's right.
And so what you're doing is a couple of things. Number one, you're gaining the experience, but you're building what I call your speaker's muscle.
That's right.
And when you build that muscle, you gain this confidence where it almost becomes second nature. And it's something that you can't read a book to learn this. You got to do it. You got to get in front of people. You got to, there's going to be times where you may bomb. You may not be perfect at the beginning, but repetition is the mother of skill. The more you do something, the better you get at it. So if you're thinking about becoming a speaker, first and foremost, join Toastmasters. Once 100%. You join Toastmasters, you got to go out and find places to speak. And we'll talk about that. Or you can figure that out on your own. Let's jump to the couple of questions. So for those who are watching and they're thinking about becoming a speaker. So for you, Ant, I'm curious, what do you like most about being a speaker?
Inspiring people to take action. When I did my TEDx talk, my whole thing was go out there and get yours. Quit whining, quit crying, quit belly aching. To your point earlier, when we started the whole podcast, the world is filled with opportunities if you're looking for them. Go out there and find them and get them. So for me, I'm always looking to inspire people to take action, man. That is my thing. That's what I love about being able to speak, is to empower people and energize people and inspire people to go out and do something. You know what I'm saying? Because, tomorrow ain't promised, Michael.
Right.
Tomorrow's not promised. So I'm like, hey, whatever you complaining about right now, go out there and do something about it. That's it, because I know if I'm able to inspire somebody to go out and do something about something, then the world's going to be a better place at some point in the future. And my job as a speaker is done. A lot of speakers come into it, I want to change the world. And that is a very admirable goal, a very admirable thing that a person wants to do. And people have to be able to communicate in such a way that they inspire people to take action in some way to change the world. Speakers are catalysts for that, man. You see any of the, Obama, Lincoln, King, Malcolm X, Gandhi, Mandela, those people moved. They literally changed history with their words, man, by standing in front of people, man. Words are powerful. Presence is powerful. Voice is powerful. Influence is powerful. So saying all that to say, to answer your question, the reason why I'm in it is I know that if I have a stage, if I have a platform, that's an opportunity for me to inspire somebody to make some positive change in the world.
Yeah. And you can't put a price on that feeling of knowing that you've done that. As a speaker, I know, and I can only speak for myself, I know that when I speak and I know that people have been moved to do something different with their lives, the feeling of accomplishment, of contributing to someone else's life is something that you can't really describe. It's spiritual, you know. It's like, okay, God, thank you for this opportunity to inspire people. And thank you for allowing me to share my gifts with others so that they can learn to share their gifts. And again, it boils down to, for me, purpose. We all have a unique purpose, I believe. And it is our responsibility to figure out what our purpose is. But ultimately, our purpose is to somehow take our unique gifts and talents and use them to make the world a little bit better.
That's right.
That to me is what purpose is just taking my unique gifts and talents, sharing them with others to help make the world a better place. And so when I'm speaking, that's the intention, to inspire people so that in my own little way, I make the world a little bit better. Now, with that being said, and I'm curious though, what would you say is the most difficult part about being a speaker? What's the challenging part?
Wow, the challenging part. The economics. You know what I'm saying? Seriously, the economics, the actual business side of it. What I didn't realize, Michael, is the industry will have you believe that, you know, you can just hop from stage to stage, you know, and that's your gig, right? You know, you can punch a clock, speak for 8 hours, punch out, and get a check, you know, for speaking. But that's just not the way that it works. The actual speaker business itself, you know, generating and producing opportunities to speak in front of people. So that's why I created a system to where I'm able to create my own stages. So I'm not, you know, so sure I knock on people's door and say, hey, can I come in and speak to your company, you know, inspire your team, all the things. And I also have a system where I can create my own stages, where I can bring in my own tribe of people who follow me, right? And so I'm never at a loss for speaking opportunities, in addition to also, you know, having a back-end business in place. And a lot of speakers don't understand that either. It's like, look, you know, you got to get paid when you're not on stage too. So how do you do that? Because when I did my TEDx, you know, I was just like, oh, well, I'm going to do the TEDx, you know, and people just going to start calling. I'm be on stage all the time. And that is not how it works. That is not how it works. And I will tell you, Simon Sinek, when I studied him and how he went about it from like TEDx to where he is right now, he had a back end in place. So then that TEDx talk fed that back end business. It's like, oh, leaders, I got a leadership program for you. And you're going to watch this TEDx talk, and then you're going to get into my funnel, and then you're going to get my book, and then you're going to get my emails, and then you're going to buy my classes, and then you're going to bring me into your company, and then you're going to have me at the conference. And I didn't know any of that, Michael. And a lot of people don't know that. But when I figured it out, that's when I started to realize transformation in my speaker business. Is like, oh, I actually got to have a product to sell. I got to have a market that I've identified that my product will sell to. And really, my speaking is the media that brings people in to engage with my product that I have back here. That's when I started to realize what the game really was. And that's when things started to transform and shift in my speaking business and my speaker life.
Yeah. Yeah. And which leads to the next thing I want to talk about, because if you're going to be a speaker, you're thinking about being a speaker, point blank, you got to write a book, some kind. I don't care if it's an ebook, because just having the title author automatically gives you credibility.
Authority,
credibility. And so if you're going to be a speaker, you need to start thinking about, and again, that's not going to be the first thing you have to do as a speaker, but as you move
Progress.
forward, as you grow your business, you're going to have other sources of revenue.
100%.
So books, courses, which courses are huge right now. Everybody's buying a freaking course. Doing podcasts, great opportunity to expand your reach, put you out there in front of people. Now, as you're thinking about these things, if that scares the heck out of you, that's perfect. Because if it doesn't scare you, it's probably not big enough. So
that's right.
You may be thinking, well, wait a minute, I just want to be a speaker. Well, yeah, I want you to be a speaker, but I want you to start thinking bigger than just a speaker. Because again, it's more than just a speaker business. It's an information business. You're basically sharing information. And the more information and content you can create, you start building what I call mailbox money, meaning you don't have to go anywhere. That money just comes to you. And so, for example, I've got probably 9 different websites. And as a writer, I write a book, I launch a website, I build a funnel to that. Whenever I give a presentation, I can say, okay, look, you go to this particular website, which is about this book, which is about this speaking title. And now it's like you were just saying, it's a funnel that keeps things moving.
That's right.
Because you can go on Oprah and still not sell anything.
You ain't lying.
If you don't have the right system.
That's right.
And a lot of people think that if I just get on TV, no, you got to have a system to bring people into your company. And it has to be an automated system so that you don't have to push all these buttons. It needs to be automatic. And so that's a whole different thing we're not going to jump into. But I just want to whet your appetite as a speaker that, first of all, speaking is a very lucrative business.
Very.
Now,
$1 billion industry.
You got to remember, though, as a speaker, and I'm a certified life coach, so one of the first things that I want to challenge you to think about is becoming a speaker is really about getting out of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
It's about becoming more than you may even think you are.
Mm-hmm.
But by simply making the commitment that I want to be a speaker, you're going to set in motion everything you need to grow into that person that will become a great speaker.
100%.
Now, will it be
100%.
easy? Absolutely.
But it'll be fun, though.
Exactly.
For me, it was fun.
It's exciting. It's freaking exciting. But again, the point here is you're talking to 2 men who speak for a living, and we're simply sharing some ideas with you to start challenging you to think, okay, well, I want to do what they're doing. And so my hope is that as you're watching this, first of all, know that if you're watching this, you have everything you need to become a speaker already.
Already in you.
It's already in you. So that's already done. The next thing you're going to have to do, though, is, and I think, Ant, you kind of alluded to this, you got to have a story. As a speaker, great speakers are just great storytellers. Bottom line.
At the end of the day.
Yeah. So, Ant, can you talk a little bit about the importance of having a story?
That's the whole crux of my TEDx. The TEDx way of speaking, they talk about the through line. What's the one idea that you're going to carry through the whole talk? So mine was access, get access, get access, get access to people, get access to resources, get access, get access, get access. That was the through line all the way through. The other thing that they talk about is, you want to take your audience on a journey, and you want to give them a gift at the end. So that journey is the story, so how do you tell the story of the journey that you take, or whatever character take? Is what do they call that? The hero's journey. Mm-hmm. That every movie, Star Wars, Marvel, Harry Potter, all of them. Any of the most successful movies that you ever watch takes that hero's journey, and all it is storytelling. And so to your point, Michael, it's being able for a speaker, according to me, is being able to know ourselves well enough and be honest and vulnerable enough to tell the complete story. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna lie, Michael. When I did my TEDx talking, I was talking about selling cannabis on the mean streets and all that. There was people who were close to me that made them very, very uncomfortable, man. But I was like, look, that's my story.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And people have to embrace their entire story. Not, oh, this is what I think will be attractive to X, Y, and Z people, or this is what's going to make me look the best or anything like this. No. What's your entire holistic, authentic, real deal story? And how are you able to create a story and package it around a product, to be honest? So is it a team building? Is it leadership development? Is it sales? Is it marketing? Is it one of the well-being? So can you actually provide a result and create a product that someone will buy and wrap it up in the package of your story? And those are what people who are, these companies, these big corporations, they're paying keynote speakers, 10, 15, 20, 25, $30,000 for. That's what they're paying them money to do. Hey, you got a great story, but can you also give us 3 actionable outcomes?
Yeah.
So can your story be engaging, and then also provide a benefit in actionable outcomes, actionable results, actionable items?
Yep, absolutely. And so another way to say this, if you're thinking about becoming a speaker, you got to find your niche.
100%.
You got to find your niche, and your story is going to serve the people in your niche. For example, I've got a couple of niches. I have one niche, which is empowering Black men. Okay, so that's why I have Shatter the Stereotypes. I have a book around it. I have an audio program around it. I have a course around it. So again, that's a niche. I also have a niche where I speak to people over 50. I wrote a book called I'm Not Okay with Gray, How to Create an Extraordinary Life After 50. That's a niche. So I have specific targets, people over 50. So if you're thinking about becoming a speaker, first of all, look at your story and figure out how to package your story around a specific niche.
That's right.
And once you do that, you're kind of halfway home.
Man, you 80% of the way there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And second though, and I think this is the part that a lot of people miss out on. And this is just my perspective as a personal transformation life coach. The journey is really about your transformation. Because as you begin this process of becoming a speaker, you are going to be challenged to grow. Bottom line. When I say grow, it means you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone. And it ain't going to be easy. But if it doesn't challenge you, it can't change you. So embrace the chaos that's coming and know that there's a very simple law. There's a universal law called breakdown, breakthrough. The purpose of breakdown is preparation for breakthrough. So when you're stuck and you're going, oh, I can't do this, and this is hard and all this, well, that's going to be a breakdown period. But you got to look deep within yourself to figure out, okay, so how can I break through? And that's when you have to lean on people like Ant and myself and mentors
100%.
Mentors that can help push you through those breakdown periods. So in summary, as a speaker, here's what you want to do. You want to, first of all, join Toastmasters. First of all.
Number one step.
Join Toastmasters. And I guarantee you, and like I said, I don't know, what is it? It's yearly now, right? It's like $100 a year or something. I don't know, $50 a year.
It depends. You know, it's so Toastmasters has their set rate international, but then each club has their different, they have their dues and their different levels.
Got you. So
prices, points.
Go online, Google Toastmasters in your area. For example, Toastmasters Houston. It'll pop up. Find a Toastmasters group in your area. Join Toastmasters. Once you join Toastmasters, start thinking about your story and building a speech around your story. And make the speech 15, 20 minutes tops. That's all you need, 15 minutes just to get started. And then you've got the foundation to launch your speaker business. There's obviously a lot more to it than that, but that's the best place to start. Okay.
100%, Michael. 100%. And if I can add on to that, for me, the competition part of Toastmasters accelerated my journey twofold. You know what I'm saying? Because you have a short window of time to become better. You know, because every month is another competition. Every month is another competition. So I always encourage people, get into those competitions if you want to fast track your success, because it forces you to become better. It forces you to become better. So Toastmasters as an organization, it does. But when you compete, though, it accelerates that exponentially.
Yeah, and because what some people will do is they'll get so comfortable with Toastmasters that they just stay in the Toastmaster box.
That's right.
They don't go out there and challenge themselves to do it in front of real live people other than the Toastmaster support system.
That's right.
It's important that, now again, do they still offer the manual, the 10 speech manual? Do you know?
No, and I ain't gonna lie, I'm a little I'm salty about that, man. I like the old way of doing it, but it's different now. It's all online. They don't have manuals like how they used to anymore. They don't have the competent communicator. They don't have the what's that? Competent communicator, and I can't remember what the leader one is. Competent leader and the communicator. So they don't have those pathways. You can't get those certifications anymore. You have to go through this pathways program, which, you know, it's all fine. Yeah. But if you're OG like I am, I'm like, man, I like it the old way.
And that makes two of us again, because it was in the 90s when I did Toast. When I did,
okay.
Yeah, so it was in the 90s. But my point.
Have you? Go ahead, finish your thought, Mike.
No, so I'm saying for you, those of you who are watching, again, regardless of the structure of Toastmasters, just trust me, it's worth going. Okay,
definitely.
Go Toastmasters. So you're about to say something, Ant? Go ahead and jump in there.
Oh, I was going to ask you, have you done any other speaking competitions or anything like that, like an Ignite or a Moth Radio Hour or anything like that in your speaking journey?
But see, I kind of jumped the gun, and here's what I mean by that. When I first joined Toastmasters, again, we had a 10 speech manual. You have to finish 10 speeches to get what's called your CTM. For me, in my little head, my thinking was, once I became certified, then I could use that in my marketing.
Right.
Paid speaking engagements.
Right.
So what I did was, as soon as I completed my CTM, my Certified Toastmaster Certificate, because see, I didn't have any certifications. Matter of fact, I only have an 11th grade education. So I didn't have credentials or anything. So to me, what I said was to myself in my head, okay, I'm a certified Toastmaster. And that gave me the confidence to start going to companies and saying, look, I'm a certified Toastmaster. You need to hire me. You need to hire me to speak.
That's right.
And I just knocked on doors. And again, I did one competition. I only did one. And I had already launched my speaking business, so I had no need to do any. Matter of fact, pulled away from Toastmasters because I started making a living as a speaker.
Good for you, Michael.
So, I mean, it was challenging. And again, this was over a couple of years before I got to that point. But the second best thing I did was become an author.
No question, man.
I cannot tell you the weight that carries because number one, I became an author because I knew it would open doors for me to be a speaker.
Definitely.
I love speaking more than I do writing, even though I love writing. But to me, when I became an author, you can't imagine the doors that it opened to be able to say, I'm an author. Because I used to put on all my stuff, author and certified Toastmaster. And it's crazy because just in my little head, that certified Toastmaster label just gave me all sorts of confidence. And most people probably could care less. At least maybe said, okay, this guy knows how to speak. But to me, it was a title that I didn't have, which gave me credibility. And all I needed was that label to say, look, I've done this. And trust me, when I did my 10 speeches, again, back in the day when we used to do these 10 speeches, of the 10 speeches that I gave to get my CTM, I won first place in 6 of them.
My man, that's what's up.
I killed them. I killed them. Six of my 10 speeches for my certification, I won first place in. So
good for you, man.
I say all that to say, it's really about your commitment to becoming a speaker and being willing to do whatever it takes to become a speaker.
There you go.
That's what it boils down to.
Bottom line.
And so, again, Ant and I are sharing insights for you, but you got to get out there and do it for yourself. But use this video as a motivator to tell yourself it's possible.
You can do it. You can do it. Absolutely. I know if I can do it, anybody who watching or listening to this video can. I got on my whiteboard. I love whiteboards. Got a gigantic whiteboard, 2-sided. On one of those sides, I have on there, what does it say? Working towards my speaker goal since 2013. You know what I'm saying? And to your point, man, you have to be committed to just like with anything. You have to be committed to your relationship with your partner. You got to be committed to what you're trying to do with your job or your skill building or whatever. If you're trying to be a speaker, it don't happen overnight. They tell how many quotes do you hear people say? It took me 10 years to be an overnight success, or it took me 20 years to be an overnight success. You ain't going to be a public speaker, a successful public speaker overnight. Right. You have to invest the time. You have to get in the reps. You have to see the vision and move towards that vision every single day, to your point, Michael.
Absolutely. And so just as an incentive for those of you who are watching this, once you get on what's called a speaker circuit, meaning some people know about you and you're getting referrals and so forth, you're going to make no less than $5,000 a speech.
Period.
Okay. No less than $5,000. Now, when you get really good, it's for a lot of the people, and I've seen guys, and it just kind of bugged me when I first started this, because I'd see guys that were making $10,000, $15,000, and they were terrible. They weren't even good speakers, but they had great marketing. They had great marketing. So my point is, I want to motivate you that it is absolutely possible for you to build a speaker business. And I don't know how long it might take, but you should make no less. Eventually, as you grow this speaker business, you should make no less, or your goal, let's put it this way, your goal should be to make no less than $10,000 a speech.
100%. And if somebody is doing if they're creating their own stages, it's entirely feasible for them to make $2,000 to $5,000 a month creating their own stages.
Absolutely. And stages are great. And here's another way to look at it also. And this is where my specialty is. Not necessarily stages, but it's kind of like a stage, but it's workshops.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Workshops and stages is kind of the same thing, but workshops, that's where the real money is.
Yeah, you going into corporations and you
Yeah,
running them
that's a whole different thing, and we won't jump into that one. But that's another, again, part of your business strategy will be to speak, to create vehicles that bring in multiple streams of income.
Preach, brother. Multiple streams of income.
Multiple,
That's where it's at.
because what you are, if you're going to be a speaker, and the label, which is a great label, is you're a thought leader. A thought leader provides insights, wisdom, information, knowledge. If you have the courage to speak and have a story, you can share knowledge. You don't have to have a PhD or formal degrees per se, but you got to have a story. You got to have a story that people relate to, and you got to be able to package that story in a way that you can share it so that it moves people. So with that being said, we've kind of went over just a little bit, but man, it's been my joy, my pleasure. But now, Ant, I want to give an opportunity for you to share. How can people contact you if they want to get coaching or mentoring or whatever you offer? So tell them how they can find you.
Yeah, you can hit up antblair.com, for if you're listening and you're an HR person or you're a meeting planner, you're an event planner, you can go to antblair.com and see more about what I do and some of the keynotes that I provide. And we can talk about how we can create a program for your team, to build your team, to inspire your team, to develop your leaders. If you are a person who's wanting to become a public speaker, you can hit up antblair.com once again. And there's a page on my website where you can get on my calendar and we can talk about what your public speaking goals are. And I go from soup to nuts, from the very beginning. Hey, who are you? What are you talking about? From the very, very, very ground level all the way up to, hey, let's get you creating your own stages that will then create the opportunity for you to get asked onto other people's stages, to do workshops, to do masterclasses, to do keynotes. Amblair.com, that's where you want to go to get in contact with me. I'm also on LinkedIn. That's the most active social media platform that I'm on.
Got it. Now, for those of you who are watching, you got to understand this. It's never been simpler to become a speaker than right now. Doesn't mean it's easy, but it's never been simpler. Back in the day when Ant and I started, it was a whole different ballgame. I personally didn't have access to people like Ant who I could contact and say, hey, look, coach me through this or whatever. Coaching and personal development and life coaching, see, that gives us access to resources that we, in a lot of cases, didn't have access to. And I'm talking about Black folk right now.
Facts.
We now have access to everything, anything. Nothing can keep you from accomplishing what you want except you. So if you're thinking about becoming a speaker and you need a mentor, you need a coach, hit Ant up. Just talk to him. See what he can guide you. See, again, I didn't have obligation. Yeah. And so when I started, did I make a lot of mistakes? Absolutely. I made a ton of them. But there's always lessons in all those mistakes. And so we want to kind of help you overcome some of those mistakes that we made. And that's why we coach.
That's right.
So again, if you're thinking about becoming a speaker, hit my man Ant up and let him do his magic with you, help put you on the right track to become a better speaker, or a paid speaker. So Ant, I want to now give you an opportunity for any closing comments that you might have for the audience.
My closing comments that I have is only one. Tomorrow is not promised. Make the most of every single day. Live a full life with no regrets, like there won't be any tomorrow, so that you can have your best today.
There you go. There you go. And so here we are, Shatter the Stereotypes, where the intention is to empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. So You have within you the capacity to build an extraordinary life. But guess what? It's going to take extraordinary effort. So be willing to put forth the effort, and you can create the life of your dreams. We'll see you next episode. Take care.